December 1890. The Norther was barreling down across the Texas Panhandle like a freight train, and Jack Harlan knew his herd wouldn't last another hour in the open. 30 years of punching cows had sharpened his eye for weather, and tonight's sky screamed trouble. He was mending a stretch of barbed wire when he spotted a teenage girl, maybe 16, slumped against a weathered mesquite tree on his spread's boundary. Her calico dress was shredded, her auburn hair crusted with dirt and blood, and she gripped a crumpled stagecoach ticket to San Francisco, stamped 4 days back. Jack had lost his daughter to cholera back in '65 and vowed never to let anyone lean on him again. For 3 decades, he'd stuck to that, running his ranch solo. No ties, no troubles. The sensible move was to saddle up for town, rouse the marshal, and wash his hands of it. But the wind was howling fiercer, temperatures plunging like a stone in a well. In an hour, the storm would hit full force. In 3, she'd freeze solid. Jack swung down from his gelding and crouched beside her, his calloused hands trembling not from a chill, but from the burden of a choice that could upend his quiet life. What cost comes with stepping in when the world says stay out? Miss, you hear me? Her eyelids fluttered open, dazed and fever-bright. When she locked eyes with his grizzled face, she tried to bolt, but her limbs betrayed her. Easy there, Jack murmured, his tone softer than it had been since burying his little girl. You're banged up bad. Don't. She rasped. Please don't send me back. Jack scooped her up gently, shocked at how feather-light she felt, how breakable. Back at his cabin, he settled her on the cot that had been his daughter's, untouched for 25 years. As he dabbed the grime from her face, the bruises told a grim, tail-faded ones yellowed like old parchment, fresh ones blooming purple. Somebody had been roughing this kid up for months, maybe years. What's your name, child? Emily Dawson, she whispered like admitting a sin. Jack paused. Dawson, he knew that surname. Frank Dawson owned the livery stable in Amarillo, a spineless sort who hit the bottle hard and kept to himself. But this girl didn't favor Frank. Frank Dawson, your kin? Emily's expression went flat, not puzzled but guarded. Stepfather. After Ma passed, he called me his burden. The way she spat burden turned Jack's stomach. As Emily drifted off, Jack eyed the stagecoach ticket. San Francisco one way. Then he noticed a wadded note in her pocket. He had no business prying, but with the storm raging outside, if she was fleeing danger, he needed the full picture. The letter was from the Lone Star Wild West Review, a touring spectacle contract for one Emily Dawson, orphan frontier captive, age 16. The details curdled his blood. She wasn't just escaping Frank. She'd been peddled like chattel. The show had paid her stepfather $40 for her services. When Emily stirred around midnight, Jack sat by the pot-belly stove, and the letter lay out plain. How long? He asked. For months, she breathed. He spun a yarn that I was snatched by Comanches as a toddler, raised wild. Night after night, I'd act out the rescue biddied to a post in fringed leather, fake cavalry charging in. The crowds ate it up. Jack recalled catching a similar show in Fort Worth once. The cheers for the stage drama now seemed hollow. The march from the handlers and from Frank before he cashed me out. Emily drew the quilt close. I bolted 5 days ago, swiped enough for the ticket. But the coach wrecked 30 miles out, and I've been hiking since. Outside, the Norther wailed like a banshee, blanketing everything in white. Frank figures you're gone for good. I pray he does. If he catches wind, I'm breathing. She trailed off. Jack peered through the frosted pain-nothing but swirling void. No soul would brave this for days. Safe for now, but blizzards blow over. The blow lasted 4 days. On the 5th dawn, Jack roused to eerie quiet and blue skies and the thud of hooves closing in. Frank Dawson trotted up the trail with his stable hand, Tom Keller, both swaddled in wool. Trailing them, Marshal Ben Caldwell and a pair of deputies, their stars glinting in the sun. Jack met them on his stoop, Winchester cradled loose. Jack, Caldwell barked. We got a jaw about that girl you're sheltering. What girl? Frank claims his stepdaughter lit out, says she might be unhinged, a threat. Frank wouldn't meet Jack's gaze. The man looked wrung out, hands jittery from more than frost. She's not here, Jack bluffed. Caldwell smirked coldly. Mind if we poke around? From the cabin window, Emily peeked out, spotted Frank, and blanched like milk. Her terror sealed it, for Jack what Frank had inflicted ran deep. She's staying put, Jack said low. The air thickened. Caldwell's palm eased toward his holster. Be smart, Jack. A girl belongs with her kin. Frank's tore up. Kin? Jack's jaw set. You mean the fella who hawks kids to road shows? Frank's face folded. You don't get it. After her ma died, deads piled high, the railroad boys were leaning hard. Emily was just property, Jack cut in. Caldwell advanced. That's wild talk. Frank Dawson's a pillar in Amarillo. Whatever yarn she's spinning, she's touched in the head. The review folks warned she was in trouble. The review folks? You on a payroll? Caldwell's eyes slit. Watch your mouth, old man. But Jack had seen graft, and the cattle drives knew when lawmen bent for the mighty. Emily stays till spring. She chooses then. Can't let that fly. Caldwell drew slick. She's leaving now. That's when Tom Keller flipped the script. Holster it, Ben. The hand had its own iron out, trained not on Jack, but the marshal. I've witnessed what Frank puts that girl through. Heard her sobs through the barn walls. She ain't returning. Caldwell flushed crimson. You're digging your grave, Tom. Deep. Maybe, but I'm done with shallow ones. The freeze frame held. 5 gunslingers, triggers itchy, each eyeing the next twitch. Then Frank shattered. Enough. He slid from his mount, tears carving tracks down his cheeks. 2 decades of rot have finally burst. I sold her, he choked. Lord, forgive me. I traded her like a nag. Caldwell's piece dipped. This wasn't the plan. Frank, come up. No. Frank faced Jack, eyes raw. You want to know my stripe? After my wife went, Emily was my world. She was 11, looked at me like I hung the moon. But debts drowned meth railroad on my note. She blossomed, pretty as her ma, and my thoughts turned foul. Jack's got twisted. So when a review rolled through, offering cash for a captive gal, I convinced myself it beat the devil in me, keeping her close. Tom holstered, repulsed. Even the deputies shifted uneasily. That's not the half, Frank pressed, voice cracking. When she escaped, came back, I was relieved. Cool, he missed here. But scared too, caused the truth would out. Marshal Caldwell stowed his iron. The mess had spun wild. Frank, I gotta own it. Frank stood shaky. Emily, honey, I know you're listening. From the doorway, Emily emerged, face ashen but firm. I'm sorry, Frank whispered. So damn sorry. Emily eyed the man who'd wrecked her youth, who'd bartered her for $40 and a clean slate. When she spoke, her voice held steady. I believe you are, but sorrow doesn't hand back what's stolen. Frank nodded, grasping. From his vest, he tugged a coin, purse's nest egg, maybe 150. Ain't near enough, he said, thrusting at Jack. Never will be, but it's mine. Then he snatched Caldwell's cuffs, snapped them on. I confessed to peddling Emily Dawson to the Lone Star Review, breaking Fed anti-slave codes. I confessed to. His words hitched. Failing as a guardian every which way. Caldwell gaped. Frank, you're loco of Feds, the probe. We'll uncover what I spill. Frank glanced at Emily once more. Maybe behind bars, I'll learn to stomach my sins. But as Caldwell grabbed the reins to haul him off, Frank clutched his chest and crumpled hard into the drifts. The weight of booze, shame, and secrets had cashed him out. Tom checked his pulse, shook his head. Ticker gave out. Emily watched from the threshold as her tormentor breathed his last in the snow. No triumph. No, he's just a hollow where rage once burned. Caldwell surveyed the wreckage. A corpse, a fugitive kid, a defiant rancher, a turncoat hand. His payoffs would surface later, but now? This never was, he grunted. Frank Dawson keeled over from a bad heart, hunting his wayward girl. Natural. Everyone clear? It wasn't right, but it passed for frontier justice. As the posse dragged Frank's body off, Tom neared Jack. She can't bunk here long. Tongues a wag. Jack knew a teen gal with a lone widower. Scandal for both. But Emily had zilch elsewhere. My aunt keeps a rooming house in San Francisco. Tom offered like mind reading. Upright spot. Emily could board, pull her weight. Emily stepped up. I can fund my ride. She hefted Frank's purse. Tainted silver, but it jingles. Jack had the girl who'd thawed his frozen home in 4 days. Tom had the right of itch, couldn't linger. Spring thawed the panhandle early that year. By April, trails cleared, and Emily Dawson bundled her scant gear into a satchel that had been Jack's wife's. The stage to San Francisco rolled from Amarillo at midday. Jack wagoned her in, words sparse on what those months meant. She'd pitched in with branding, whipped up suppers that warmed his shack like forgotten sunshine. Evenings, she'd perch by the hearth as he read from his daughter's primers, both feigning this could endure. But nothing gold stays. At the depot, Emily faced him in the warming sun. She looked grown, not from scars but hard-won grit. Will you write? If you ask. I do. She fished a parcel from her bag. For you. Unwrapped. A tintype of Emily by his corral, doling apple slices to his roan. Snapped at the Amarillo photographer, her sparse coins spent on this freeze frame. On back, in neat hand, to Jack Harlan, who taught me a real pause measure. ED Spring 1891. The stage horn blared. Emily tiptoed, pecked his rough cheek, then boarded without a backward glance. Jack watched the coach fade into the endless Texas flats, carting off the nearest to kin he'd claimed since his girl's grave. That eve, alone in his cabin, he studied the tintype. Outside, breezes carried hints of green shoots and looming dry spells. But for the first time in ages, Jack Harlan didn't dread the solitude. He'd salvaged one soul, and it had handed him purpose to press on. Some folks chase atonement their whole run. Sometimes it hunts you down. If this tale stirred something in you, hit that like button and drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you have stood your ground like Jack, or played it safe? Share your take on redemption, abuse, and when justice bends. Let's hear your stance.